everybody's noticed by now, the protest is now inside the building instead of outside the building. If anybody's having any difficulty hearing in the back, feel free to just come forward. The speakers come there and there, so it'll be a little bit louder up here. You'll be able to hear a little bit better over the yelling. Can you hear that? Is that what we got? Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. I have to talk down a little bit. Everybody hear me fine then?
There we go. Is this your spot?
Mic check. 1, 2, 3. Everybody hear me now?
Barely.
Wonderful. Okay. So first, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming out to this event. It's really great to see you guys here, and it means that all the work we've put into it has actually led to some results. I'm Edward Sullivan. I work with the University of Toronto Men's Issues Awareness Society, the UTMIA, and that's the U of T group that's been putting on these events for the last year or so. We've been able to do this thanks in part to the support and sponsorship of the Canadian Association for Equality, CAFE, which they've got stuff set up outside. They're a national nonprofit which is devoted to education and advocacy on gender issues. Right now they mostly focus on men's issues. Out in the hall we should have some more information about the UTMIA, so we have things like the mandate, major areas of concern, FAQs, the obligatory information sign-up sheet. Any of the students here, we're always looking for new volunteers and new members. Running these events is kind of like herding cats, except a little bit worse. I think Cafe have, they've actually got a whole table set up there along with the tip jar and so on and so on. It's pretty much the same stuff as we've got from UTMIA. Hopefully this will all go well, hopefully things won't be too disruptive. We'll see how that goes. We've got a fairly large campus with its presence, so they shouldn't be able to do anything particularly nasty. It's very important to us that every point of view has a chance to be heard. We've talked to the U of T Office of the Vice Provost Students, and we do need to point out that there are a few U of T policies that are in effect during the presentation. First of all is, of course, the U of T Student Code of Conduct. All the students here have probably never read it. There's the U of T Governing Council Statement on Freedom of Speech, which is why we can have this event in the first place. And the U of T policy on the disruption of meetings. Anyone who was here for the last meeting got a really great demonstration of what that looks like when everybody had to evacuate due to the fire alarm. Finally, there's the U of T statement on prohibited discrimination and discriminatory harassment. That's pretty self-explanatory. We're really proud of our approach with UTMIA and CAFE. We don't want to shut down the people who want to talk about us. We're not even going to stop the protesters beyond stopping them from completely disrupting the event. Obviously, we encourage people with their own cameras, photography, videography. We don't have anything to hide here. We're always happy to have dialogue. There are a lot of people who have tried very hard to get these events out of U of T. Obviously, we don't support that because we think that overall dialogue benefits everyone. In advance of this event, we actually sent out invitations to a number of different groups, including the UTSU itself, a number of specific feminist academics, and REM. Nobody but REM actually responded. Everybody just ignored it. REM gave us a very polite response that said, no, we're not coming because we think you're violent. Or at least that's when we read between the lines a little bit. Now, there was a media release on everybody's seats. I don't know how many people have had a chance to read it. We've had a fair bit of lag time. It talks about some of the stuff going on with these particular protesters, some of the stuff that happened at the last event, and overall the situation. There is a longer version of that that goes into a bit more detail on the website at www.equalitycanada.com. It'd be great for everybody to check that out. There's all sorts of stuff there as well, and obviously we put all of the events up there in advance. In light of some previous comments, I'd also like to quickly mention that UTMIA and CAFE put on these talks with a view to making sure that a wide variety of viewpoints are represented. This means we don't always agree with everything that speakers have to say, but feel that everybody should have a chance to see these various opinions presented and make up their mind themselves. In particular, it's important to be aware that the beliefs of the speakers do not always represent the official policy of UTMIA. Or CAFE, or the beliefs of the individual members. This is especially true with regards to speakers' views that lie outside the specific field that we brought them in to speak about. We'd also like to mention that CAFE and UTMIA are not affiliated with any other organizations, pretty much stand alone. We bring in speakers because we think they're interesting and they've got something to say, but we don't maintain any specific affiliations. Without further ado, we have a couple of quick announcements, and then we'll get started. Can I get Ian?
So, thank you, Edward. So I'd like to start out just by giving a very big thank you to the UTMIA. It can take a lot of courage as a student to come forward and organize something like this when you know the kind of opposition you're facing. And I think it really speaks to the strength of your character and the strength of your beliefs that you're presenting. Their professionalism and their commitment to freedom of speech is commendable, and we believe that the way that they've comported themselves is a great example of how an Institute of Higher Learning should operate. Finally, Edward's already touched on what we're about. We're an educational nonprofit. Our goal is to raise awareness of underrepresented gender issues. We've been around for about 2 years, active for about a year and a half. And really, our organization can't exist without your support. So please, if you do like what you see, if you'd like to see more events like this, please do go to our website and join CAFE. It's $60 for a year-long membership, $100 for a 2-year membership, and we also have a low-income or student membership for $20. So please do go in and do that. That, along with donations at these events, are really what allow these things to happen. So without further ado, I'll hand it back to Edward, and we'll get the talk started. Thank you.
Okay, now everybody probably knows who our two speakers here are, but I'm going to introduce them again. On the right, on your left, is Paul Nathanson, and on your right is Catherine Young. They've both done a lot of work on the subject of misandry, and they've published several books on the subject. Now, you guys are both from McGill University in Quebec. What are your fields of study specifically?
Used to talking over the sound, and if you can't hear me, let me know.
You can just pick up the mic too if you want. That'd be easier. Just pick it right up, it'll come right out of that thing, and you can hang on to it. Just pull it straight forward, there you go. Then you can speak right into it. You don't have to shout then.
Okay, so help me out with this one. My field is the field of religious studies, which you may think that's about as far away from misandry as you could possibly get. But there's a link here because as I started to study other cultures, and my major field is India, I had to learn techniques such as empathy. How do you get to understand another view? How do you cross cultures? How do you communicate? And once you learn that through experience of other cultures, it becomes very similar to think about communication between men and women. We have many similarities and also many differences. So my field, my base field was India, but then I did a lot of work in comparative religion. And from there, in the early 70s, as the issue of women became so important, I began to write on women in Hinduism, and then did a number of books on women in different religions, inviting a number of different women scholars and men scholars to contribute to those volumes. And from that comparative insight, I began to get a certain multi-dimensionality about gender. But that's the point where I met Paul, and we began to think of where are men in this discussion.
Okay, well, this topic, this depressing topic, I must say.